Welcome to AstroTwins Radio, your cosmic GPS for life, love, and everything written in the stars. We're Tali and Ophira Edut, the AstroTwins, here to decode the astrology of the moment and help you navigate your destiny like a pro. Hey everyone, it's the week of November 24th to 30th. Tali here in Seattle. Still, I think I'm going to hang out here for the rest of the year at this point. Ophi in New York, and I will too. So that means we probably won't be spending our birthday together this year. Different solar return charts after all. The solar return chart is the 1-year chart you get on your birthday every year. And actually, if you book a reading with us near your birthday and tell us where you're going to be on that day, we can pull that up for you or where you're thinking about being, because what happens every year when the sun returns to where it was when you were born, the same degree and minute, is it casts a chart for you. You get a new birthday basically every year. And the placements of the planets give you a map for the year ahead. So even though we'll have we have a Taurus moon, right?
Yeah, I'll have a Sagittarius rising. You'll have a Libra rising. So I think we have a calculator for it on our site. We should drop it in the notes for people who are curious about where to spend their birthdays. You
or
can
even
plan ahead.
Look back on your last birthday and see, what your chart was. It might
the
be
houses move, just like your birth chart is a snapshot of the time, date, and place that you were born. It's like you're born newly for the year, and then the planets move into different houses, which light up different parts of your life depending which time zone you're in. So every year we make a habit of looking ahead at what time zone might be best to spend our birthday. And I had my eye on Seattle because it's a very fiery, feisty one, but it looks like I will be a little bit more of a reflective twin in 2026. And Tali's going to see a lot more Tali, I think.
Well, that happened, 2 years ago, I had the Gemini rising and I traveled so much, and you had a Cancer rising, you almost went nowhere. And then this past birthday year, you were a Virgo rising and I was a Leo rising, but your sun was in the third house. I was, but your sun was in the third house. You did a lot of talks and a lot of networking and
local kind of things. Yeah. So it's really interesting to have a crystal ball. Like, you can't control where the planets are going to be, but you can have a say in just which houses, which parts of life get activated.
I'm ready for this fourth house. So, I did not travel much this year, that Leo rising, but I did do a lot of kind of my home was my castle, and you and Sabelle, my niece, your daughter, Ophi, came to visit. I did a lot of hosting and with this Leo. So anyways, so we're looking for a new solar return, and I'm so glad Mercury is going to be out of retrograde on our birthday. We have one final week of the retrograde, and unfortunately it wages on through Thanksgiving. But it ends this Saturday, November 29th.
Hard reset button on Saturday. Kind of. This is a packed week with the planets. We're calling it Venus week because Venus is like the pinball that gets shot through the machine and hits every single
ding.
It's like today, Monday, it's hitting Mercury retrograde, and then it's gonna make contact with Jupiter and Saturn in a grand water trine, and then Neptune and Uranus over the weekend. It's going to be opposite Uranus and together, and it's just Venus. I mean, Venus is a planet of peace and harmony, so we need a delegate from the stars.
But the thing is that Venus is in detriment until Sunday in Scorpio, so that hasn't been really, that we're going to talk about that. It does move on to Sagittarius, the sign of globalism and religion, or at least your religious philosophies, on Sunday after
Beliefs.
this tour of Scorpio, and it's in Sagittarius from this Sunday, November 30th until December 24th. But While Mercury is retrograde in Scorpio, Venus is in Scorpio. And like we said, they're meeting up today, Monday, November 24th. There's a grand water trine on Wednesday with Jupiter, which expands in Cancer, but is retrograde, and Saturn, which is also retrograde.
At least that ends this week. Mercury and Saturn's retrogrades end this week. So if anyone else wants a refund for November, like you probably won't get it, but you might get a little rebate.
Yeah,
So.
it's we got to do a little bit of a recap on the insane. Like last week, we told you guys Mercury slipping back into Scorpio. It was in the first half of the retrograde from November 9th to 18th was in Sagittarius. Then it moved into Scorpio November 18th last week, Tuesday. And we're like, there is going to be some evil genius level, you know, just insanity that gets exposed. And this past week has been just like Ophi said, a pinball. It's been its own pinball machine because of people involved. It's like just a little. It's like who's on whose team. We watched Marjorie Taylor Greene appear to be contrite and sticking up for people.
And then she announces her resignation January 5th, the day before January 6th. Interestingly, I mean, I don't know if that's a coincidence or not, but I mean, it's so what I'm seeing kind of overall is like this duality. I mean, Uranus is now back in Taurus. It was in Gemini. We're seeing a lot of Tauruses and Geminis making really just being really like lightning rods for a lot of culture and confusion, from Trump to Marjorie Taylor Greene, who are both Geminis, to Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, who are Tauruses. I mean, there's some seriously polarizing figures in both camps, both signs right now more than ever. So, it's this. Is she afraid? Is she scared? Now that she's dared to defy the machine that she helped build, the MAGA machine. Probably MAGA is a mob. MAGA is a mafia. So,
well, and Trump's
it's a cult.
dog whistles or outright call. Like this week,
he's been using the word traitor, and he's been making these suggestive posts that George Washington, he retweeted or reposted someone who said George Washington would have hung them.
Well, there was a group of senators who, said the military does not have to follow illegal orders, and that created a whole uproar in MAGA. And then Trump posted on Truth, quote unquote, social that they were seditious and George Washington would have hung them, and they're getting death threats now.
I mean, that is some Civil War talk. Like, much as we hope that this rerun of the Civil War transits wasn't a thing, it's turning out to be a thing in so many ways. It's really, really wild. And then we have a whole thing about that in our 2026 book that you wrote. That
I did. I wrote something Civil War 2.0, like the new Civil War. That's in the almanac in the back of the big book. So thank you, by the way, to everybody who has been buying our book, our 2026 horoscope book and zodiac planner. The big book has a special section in the back, which is our almanac, where we get into global trends. We talk about everything from transhumanism to human design in there, and astrocartography, relationships in the age of Aquarius,
financial cycles. Now, if you don't have a book yet or you want to gift it, get over there this week, astrostyle.com/holiday. We just opened up our holiday shop. So we have the best deals of the year, all our Black Friday bundles, and a special on our Become Your Own Astrologer course. So if you're someone who is sad that you missed our birth chart mastery course for the last 2 years, we're doing it again in February 2026. And we have a Black Friday only special for $500 off just this week. So grab that and get yourself in there, because we also, have a limited number of seats too. So I would make sure you lock in your spot.
Yes, becoming your own astrologer that is what got me through this year. Like
Yeah.
the amazing community and being able to gather and just watch people just light up as they learn how to actually really, really read their birth charts. We have people from all levels, people who really just
Grab it.
knew their sun sign and people who were advanced in their understanding, but there's always, always, always more to learn and how the pieces come together, and even just working together with us to learn how to interpret and,
Mhm.
being in a community where you can talk about astrology together. So all of our special Black Friday deals, including this really short window course, is it holidays, right?
No,
Astrocell.com. Oh,
no,
sorry,
holiday.
astrostyle.com/holiday. No S at the end. So, yeah.
Mhm. Yep. Head
Uh,
over to our holiday shop. And now let's go back to Mercury retrograde. I mean,
well,
apparently talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene spawned that side trip,
well,
but
we were
she's,
talking about the Civil War and all the
yeah,
fractures within the country, and speaking of civil wars, there's also like Russia and Ukraine. I mean, it's a proxy war, not a civil war, but it's like they're attempting peace under Mercury retrograde. I
in
hope something
Scorpio.
finally, yeah, I mean, maybe that's what it takes to create peace, but will that plan actually stick? We had Nicki Minaj going MAGA.
Yeah.
We had bots on X being exposed as MAGA accounts that had gotten retweeted and reposted, and it turned out to be primarily Russian and Nigerian bots, and
And hackers and that
it's
kind of
just the
thing. Yeah.
world stage. I mean, Nigeria is coming into the news finally for like all the stuff that's happening there. There was a kidnapping of over 200 students from a Catholic school. It's been really like MBS uh got the
Yeah, I
red
watched
carpet
the
treatment. You
I
did.
forced myself to watch the state dinner that Trump held for MBS and the talk. And then watching him with Mamdani this week and the broed up visit, like, there's all these memes going out like, find you someone who looks at you the way Trump looked at Mamdani. I mean, it's like, it's funny, but it's also not. Like, this is the trickiest thing that I think Mercury retrograde. This is a snake year, and it is trickster on
Mm.
steroids. So one of the things that's so confusing is that when a person who, out of one side of their mouth, Trump, so Gemini, is calling for executions of anyone who disagrees with him. And then you see him like patting someone on the back that you have pinned some hopes for a different America on, who's also simultaneously making you unsure what they really stand for fully. But it's our brains are spinning and spinning. This is so year of the snake, so 9 year. It's perfect that Venus is the host of this week because Venus rules Libra and Taurus. And we have, and Venus charms and disarms. So it's really hard right now for us to know, like, I think what is real. Well, one of the accounts that I started following is a neuroscientist called a Dysregulation Nation. And she was talking about a concept that I've been reading about over the last couple of years called ambiguous loss, which is when, we have a loss that we're grieving that has no closure. Like, for example, if someone in your life gets dementia or suddenly dies, or someone, breaks up with you and disappears, or that kind of thing, where there's no closure, or someone suddenly stops talking to you from your family, and you can't close the loop. There's this effect where you just don't know what to do because you thought that person was in your circle, or maybe you thought someone was out of your circle, like a Marjorie Taylor Greene, and suddenly they come in and seem to be an ally, or someone who you thought was an ally or loved one just suddenly is not present. So she talks about what that does to our brains and made a parallel around democracy and the ambiguous loss of democracy that we're feeling. Like, yes, a lot of this stuff has always been going on. There's always been, like, you can look at the way people are about 9/11 and the JFK assassination. There's a lot of conspiracies, and it might be that now there's a lot that's hidden from us, but I don't think it's ever quite been like this. So we're collectively feeling this ambiguous loss of democracy. We're heading into the holidays where people are trying to figure out how to have dinner with relatives who may be in the MAGA cult, or just people that we love but who are looking the other way or okay with certain things. And that's the whole problem that seems to be happening now as we're heading into 2026, the year of the unbridled spirit, where a lot more of that is even going to come out in the open. Like, you see it in, what's happening with Jews and anti-Semitism and
New
Gaza,
York, Israel,
New York. It's all
Gaza, everything.
converging. Yeah, it's all converging into this puzzle with pieces that don't fit together. So I think that
I think people are tired. Everyone, this November was an exhausting month for our brains with the government shutdown and thinking about people losing their SNAP benefits, waiting for health insurance premiums to come in. And a lot of people are getting them and like, I'm not going to have health insurance, or, like, I'm just going to have
ICE and the
emergency
detention
care.
centers and the awful.
I mean, there's so much.
It's so much it's like I feel symptoms of grief when I read the news now too. And yet, have to keep up on it. And the grief is sort of a feeling of like, I don't know what to do about this. I cannot metabolize this. How can this be normalized to anyone? And we're all feeling that way about so many things.
The ambiguous loss of truth and what seems like common decency. And I mean, RFK Jr. just changed the CDC website to basically say that it says the claim vaccines do not cause autism is not an evidence-based claim because studies have not ruled out the possibility that infant vaccines cause autism, even though it's just like super vague language, sowing doubt. And I will say, it's there's apprehension and excitement for me about Mamdani. Like, I love that there's a fresh voice, someone who seems to be very focused on his messaging and, social programs in New York City. But, this during this Mercury retrograde, like already going to the White House. And I mean, he's a Libra. I think he has a lot of planets in Libra. Like, that was a smooth move there with Trump to go and just focus on common ground. I was like, this is some masterful Libra-ing going on here. Like,
Trump
pointing
loves
out
a Libra. I mean, as a Gemini, I mean, Putin is a Libra. Netanyahu is a Libra. He doesn't like Gavin Newsom, but he's a Libra. Kamala is a Libra. So, of course,
I thought she was pretty. Well, I think Mamdani, he's got a little bit of the Libra smooth operator, a lot of it too. I mean, a lot of Jews are upset about the way or at least his team responded to the anti-Israel protests outside the Park East synagogue. Now, I believe everyone has the freedom to protest, but you also have the freedom to worship. And protesters were blocking the entrance and shouting things like death to the IDF. And I think what a lot of people don't understand, our dad is from Israel. He grew up there. He was a refugee there from age 2, is that every Israeli has to be in the IDF. You have mandatory service. And there are Israelis who are protesting, who are terrified for their kids having to go in the army, who don't want, who think of Netanyahu as a war criminal. But
Mhm.
the concept, I feel like I have to explain it as a Jew with an Israeli father because I am not pro what's happening there at all. I think that there have been horrifying war crimes committed and horrifying, crimes committed in the name of religion and the name, and and settling the settlers. I'm not pro that in any way, shape, or form, but I will say that it is scary as a Jew to watch people blocking Jews from going into a synagogue to hear about Aliyah, which is a concept of moving to Israel. The group Nefesh B'Nefesh is not proven. They're talking about moving to Israel, not going in to be a settler. Now, I know some people think that anyone who moves to Israel is a settler, and that's definitely a radical stance, but one that I can understand from other people's perspectives.
I think the whole thing is that just the way the state of Israel was created came with so problematic that now all these things that are in the history of Israel, the full history of its creation is coming out. And there's lots to be upset about. The fact that Palestinians have lived as second-class citizens in these areas for such a long time. I mean, I can't blame just what's happened in Gaza is just unforgivable, and there's no excuse for it, and especially to the people there, both at the hands of Israel and Hamas. So the problem is that people are paying the price for those in power and what they failed to do to create justice, fairness, coexistence, protection. And we're now seeing it. It's reached a boiling point. Again, I go back to human design, and we talk about this in the book too. 2027 being this real turning point year, the end of a 412-year era called the cross of planning, the planning era. That's happened since 1615. We're at the end of it. We could call it late stage capitalism, but it's late stage abuses of power. Late stage nationalism is really kind of what we're in from a spiritual perspective. So it's so hard to reconcile. Now it's like a move to Israel might represent safety for a Jew or a celebration, but you have to filter out to have that kind of stance. You have to filter out how problematic it also is. And
Jews have a right to return. Palestinians should have a right to return as well. Yeah. And I think that's what people who are, have a more global or humanistic view are saying. And there was, it's like, Nefesh was not, it's like they're not saying go to Israel and settle the West Bank, And I think that that's, a lot of New York Jews are feeling super nervous because they're not clear that Mamdani will protect them.
One of the problems is Mamdani's team made a statement that suggested that people moving to Israel would be violating an international law, which it's inaccurate. That, moving past a green line that has changed by law 58 years ago, overall laws need to be changed and targeted, not people. And that's the real issue that I see. Like if we live on indigenous land in the United States.
Well, that's the biggest irony to me.
Like, even in any protester,
the
also
UK and the US are where a lot of anti-Israel protests are happening. Two of the biggest colonial settler countries on the planet, and I'm just like, wake up! Like,
I mean, this is the hypocritical nature of the year of the snake. And
now that does not make anything that's happening anywhere else okay, and it's so hard to talk about. That's what's just like been really, it's been a difficult year to be a Jew because a country that is supposedly a safe space for you after the Holocaust, and was designed to be a protective space, is also, created a genocide. And it's like, and I feel so out of
And
control.
it was created by kicking people out of land and spaces that they lived in, which
Yeah.
will always be problematic. And the cross of planning era, this 412-year era, has been filled with revolutions, colonizing, the impact of that settling, and humans also need a hard reset.
It's true. That has happened over the last 14 years in this human design cross of planning. Yeah.
400,
it has been
412 years. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So I think, you can't just say, okay, let's invite Jews to move to Israel and make it this celebratory thing and not acknowledge the grief and the pain of what's going on with Gaza. And I think, but that does not in any way make it okay how the protesters like actively and intentionally decided, like, that one of the protest leaders said, like, we have to make them scared, make them afraid. Like that's where it goes way over the line for me. However,
it's like you've already done that. That's why people were there.
Well, I would like to see the world move as we move into a 1 year in the unbridled spirit and this new 10-year cycle of numerology. What I would like to see is accountability. I'd like to see that for Mamdani too. He needs to make a strong statement that harassing individuals is never okay. That protesters, the problem is that, protesters have gotten violent and have turned into have used some hate group tactics now as well. Mm-hmm. And they're intimidating and harassing individuals. Now, on a group level, what I'd like to see is for example, let's say this group Nefesh B'Nefesh is meeting in the synagogue to inform people about making Aliyah to Israel. Why not inform them about what's really going on geopolitically, how to be an ally to Palestinians and Gazans, how to not be part of the problem of there are people in Israel who don't respect one another on both sides and actively hate and want to kill and do, clash with each other, suicide bombings. It's just terrible there. And it's kind of a metaphor, I think, for how we can all do better. This Venus week, I'd like to see we need some better solutions.
Venus in Sagittarius and Saturn, planet of structure, right in time for Thanksgiving, is turning direct in Pisces, a sign of compassion. And to me, that does, it's the last lap of Saturn in Pisces too, ending this 2-year cycle. Saturn first moved into Pisces March 7th, 2023, and it wraps up the cycle on February 13th. February 13th, and then it's in Aries for 2 years until April 12th, 2028. So we've already got a little taste of Saturn in Aries this year from March 30th until September 1st. And it was, together with Neptune. And, I did a little Instagram post about why February 20th is a big deal date. This February 20th, Saturn and Neptune will be back at 0 degrees Aries, but making an exact conjunction. And they were pretty close already this year, 2025. But that exact conjunction at 0 degrees Aries is happening for the first time in over 2,000 years. I couldn't find anything in the AD where that I mean, they joined up in Aries every 300 years but this is the first time. The 0 degrees Aries is the Aries point. It's the very start of the zodiac. And I like to call that day the Great Reset, even though that sounds pretty conspiracy-ish.
But it is a great reset. And I mean, it is a really momentous opportunity. 0 degrees the very first second of the first sign of the zodiac, two planets converging for the first time in over 2000 years is a big deal. It is a big deal. And those macro, wide, long ranging cycles are something that we really did have to look at a lot while writing the 2026 horoscope book, because we're trying to make sense of some much bigger patterns, because nothing seems to make sense right now in the short term and immediate. So it's been interesting to do the podcast, because every week we're like, all right, let's zoom in close and then zoom out wide, just to kind of see where things might be headed. And we really did take a lot of care and time to look at things from a big picture point of view so that you can continue to have hope. I saw a great clip by Jane Fonda, who's just such an amazing Sagittarius champion for women and human rights. And she was talking about, like, we cannot lose hope, because hope is what gives us our vitality and our will to keep going. So, but the reservoirs of hope have gotten a bit tapped, to say the least, this year. So we're really
25 has been a rough year, and we knew it was going to be, but 2026 is a totally different energy, and we'll be talking about that a lot more on the podcast coming up next week. December 1st through 7th, our birthday week. Our birthday is December 2nd. Next week is a very light week. So I think we can do a show that's a little more about some of the predictions coming for everyone next year. I want to encourage everyone to, get on our Black Friday deals. I love the manifestation bundle is one. It's $99, and you get the big book, which has all 12 signs in it and an almanac at the back. And then you get a zodiac planner. So you get to pick a sign. We recommend reading for your sun sign, getting the book for your sun sign. But if you are someone who prefers reading for your rising sign, that's fine too. Get the sun sign zodiac planner, and then the big book you can read for your rising sign, or whatever, vice versa. But the zodiac planner has calendar pages, write-in calendar pages. It's all your sign in one spot, so you don't have to like flip around to find things that you want, like your monthly forecast, or any of the deals. We have our, like we mentioned earlier, our $500 off become your own astrologer. So go to astrostyle.com/holiday. If you want to
and you
book a
forgot to
reading.
say with the manifestation bundle that it also comes with a crystal of the year.
Oh, I'm sorry. And the manifestation bundle also comes with a crystal of the year. We have a piece of carnelian. That's our stone we chose, that Jennifer, who's on our team, went up to the mountains in Colorado to source them from a really reputable crystal dealer. And a tote bag, our La Luna tote, our Tulum tote that we used to give people when we did our retreats in Tulum years ago, before it
it's a
became
really great gift, because you get the 2 books, the tote, the crystal, a ticket to our master class in January, our Planet by the Planets annual webinar, and you get the daily horoscope calendar populator that we've done, where you just, with the touch of a button, can populate your Google Calendar, your iCal, with all the most important dates of the year. So you have them there for alerts, for reference too. So, I mean, yeah, so we'll keep it shorter this week, because there's just a lot to process, a lot going on. And, just stay calm. It's the end of Mercury retrograde. Keep those olive branches handy, but also read up on ambiguous loss, just to really understand what you may be, having to process if you go visit family, if you are, look up where you're shopping, if you're taking advantage of Black Friday deals, donate. Giving Tuesday is on our birthday, December 2nd. Make a donation, and just really, let's try to keep our feet on the ground. So we will see you next week.
And hopefully, wishing you well with Mercury retrograde travels. There is supposed to be some polar vortex going. Like, Mercury's just not going out without a fight. So if you, like us, feel like staying at home this week and just riding out the end of the Scorpio wave, we cannot blame you. But leave early for the airports, build in time for scheduling changes and all that. And we wish everyone a safe and healthy week. We'll be back next week with more.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to AstroTwins Radio. If today's episode gave you an aha moment, we'd be over the moon if you left us a 5-star review. It helps fellow astrology lovers find us. And make sure to hit subscribe and follow us on iTunes and Spotify so you never miss an episode. Want the full visual experience? You can also watch the video version on our YouTube at AstroTwins-TV. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at AstroTwins and head over to astrostyle.com to read your free daily, weekly, and monthly horoscope that we write for you with love. Until next time, move with intention and let the universe meet you there.